Hello Stampin' friends, this is Trina Brower with a quick little video on how to make this Christmas card that I designed today. Well, I kind of took it off of a template that I'll show you in a minute, but I wanted to show you the Sale-a-bration product that I'm going to be using today, which is this Peaceful Prints 12 by 12 paper. And we used it last week, I believe, in this Christmas card, where we had the strips of paper and we created this. This week, though, I am going to be using just this one from the Designer Series paper. I love this paper. And it's free with a $50 order, product order. And you can see all of the cool things they have done with this Designer Series paper. It comes in basic black, cherry cobbler, garden green, real red, Sahara sand are all the coordinating colors with this Peaceful Prints Designer Series paper. And of course, this is in the Sale-a-bration catalog that goes from August 3 through September 20 of 2021. So let me show you my inspiration page for this card. This was something I got out of a Stampin' Up magazine or some type of thing they sent me probably ages ago that I printed. And I just kind of like the idea of this. It's a little bit simpler than what I usually do, so I kind of upped it a little bit with my card right here, as you can see, but still kept the same basic design. I am going to be using today, sorry for all of my ums, but it keeps me at least semi on track. I am going to be using today the Christmas Wishes from this retired stamp set called Ornamental Pine, and then these two images too for the inside of my card, just to give it a little extra oomph. You know, I always like to place something a little extra for where the sentiment goes for the inside sentiment of my card. Then also today, I will be using this Beautiful Boughs die. I do not have the coordinating stamp set that went with this, but this I don't believe is any longer available. But I wanted to use the pine leaves and the pine cones in this set. So I wanted to show you too, there is several coordinating stamp sets in the mini catalog, the July to December 2021 mini catalog. And this is on page 17, and it's the Christmas season and Christmas to Remember stamp sets. And so it's almost kind of like the same thing that I had earlier. I'm going to show you these. This one has all the pretty pine cones, and of course you'll have the dies that coordinate with that. And this one has all the wonderful sentiments that you can never go wrong with using these. But this is a nice set that's similar to my retired stamp set that you would be able to get a lot of good use from. Okay, let's kind of get started. First of all, I wanted to tell you my card base for this card is made out of soft suede and just simple 8.5 by 5.5 and scored at 4 1/4. And then, of course, I have my Designer Series paper. And this was cut at 4 by 5 1/4. And let's go ahead. Oops, I'm not going to quite do that yet. I've got some twine. And I found this worked easiest for me. I just have some plain old twine. And I'm going to go ahead and attach it about in the middle of this Designer Series paper. So I usually just use tape. That seems to work the best for me. So get out my trusty tape here. I'm going to start this about right in the middle of the card. I'm going to tape this down. And I'm not measuring. You know me, I never measure. I'm just kind of going to get it something close to where I want it. And my other piece of tape. And let's see. That looks pretty good. I don't care if it's a little loose or a little off. We're going to cover up most of it anyways. And my other piece of tape down. There we go. And my mono adhesive, I'm going to go ahead and attach this to my card base right now. Okay. And just centering it. Now, since I have that twine on there, I know this seems a little odd sometimes, but I do take my brayer and I just kind of really give it a good smooshing down. So I make sure that I have everything where I want it. Okay. All right, now my next step has always been to take my silicone pad, and I've got my 2 dies of the pine bows that I've cut out here. And I'm just going to use my Tombow liquid glue to go ahead and attach these. Oh, just a little bit of squirts here and there, and we'll be in good shape. Nothing fancy, just a few things. I don't need it to stay down, you know, completely, because I want it to look a little bit like the pine branches. So if some of it pops up a little, that's okay. It'll give it some dimension. Okay, that looks like I've got it enough down there to hold it. That's the main thing. And then you take it here, this up a little, grab this big one. And I found out it works easiest for me to just kind of grab a spot of it here and just, I'm sliding it under the twine. That was what worked best for me. That way I kind of had an idea where it all needed to be lined up. Give it a good little press. And then I'm going to add my smaller pine bough to the top up here. And just, well, wherever you like it. Really no magic to it at all, just kind of wherever you prefer. Now I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the pine cones that I made here using my Sizzix. So I cut out the base for the pine cone and then cut out the top that'll go on it to make my pine cone. What I did though, since this is so intricate, is I did take my soft suede. This is crumb cake, by the way, the other thing. And I ran it through my Xyron so that when I cut out my image on my Sizzix, I already have the stickum that's going to go on the back of it. So I don't have to worry about trying to put glue or anything else on it. Now, the sandwich that I used on my Sizzix, since I have a really old one, is, of course, the magnetic plate here, which they tell you not to use with this big metal plate, you know, not to use it on your magnetic plate because it could tend to crack some of the magnets in your magnetic plate. But mine's so old, I don't have any problem with it. I just use it. Now, I do not use it, though, whenever I have a less intricate or more of an open weave die, because that will tend to warp your die, because you don't need this much of a, I don't know what hardness to it. But when you have something this intricate, I really like to use the metal base plate. So anyways, I've taken my magnetic plate, my metal base plate, and then my cardstock, my die, and then of course a plastic or clear plastic sheet. And that's my sandwich for that. Okay, so as I said earlier, this has already basically been run through the Xyron and then cut. Now the only thing is, when you do run it through the Xyron, that does really push that backing on there, but it's easy to peel off. And now I've got my stickum already on there, and I can just place it right on my card there, and there we go. I don't have to mess with all of the glue or fine tip glue or anything else. It's just ready to go. I love it. Alrighty, so what's next then is, let me pull some of this out. I've already stamped my Christmas wishes from that stamp set, and this is cut at 1/2 by 3 1/4. And then this piece of soft suede, I cut it at 3 1/2 by 1/4. And I'm just going to put that on there, and I'm going to just offset it a little, because I liked how that looked on my inspiration piece. So really just kind of offset it a little. It doesn't fit perfectly, just made to look like this. And I'm going to take a couple of dimensionals and put those on there. Okay, kind of move this up out of the way a little. I'm going to go ahead and put my sentiment on there right now, just kind of to help me decide where I want to put my pine cones. And just kind of center it a little. That's on there pretty good. Okay, so the next thing is with my pine cones, I'm going to use just my liquid glue to glue down 2 of the pine cones. This way, I like using the liquid glue in this particular reason because simply I can move it around if I need to. So grab this. And I think I'm going to stick it right about there. That looks good. Just stuck my finger. This is why I don't use glue too much, because I always end up with it all over me. And this one, I think about right there. Okay, give them a good press. And for my other pine cone, once again, I'm going to pull out the dimensionals, and I'm going to put a couple of them on here and just pop that up a little bit. Take my backs off of my dimensionals and put him about right here. So there I have my basic card. Now I still want to add this little bit of a bow right there. And once again, thanks to my friend and her wonderful husband who made me this bow maker, since we all know that I cannot make bows for the life of me. So very simple, wrap it around, pull it up and around, and here we go. And then give it a tight pull. And there's my bow. How I just love this thing. Thanks again, Mary Jo's husband. Oh, flip that off, pull her up, and of course just need a mini glue dot to put that on with. Sometimes I like the way the knot looks, sometimes I don't really care. I'm gonna do this, pull it off. Yeah, I'll mess with that when it's on the card a little bit more. And just kind of tuck it up underneath there. And there we go. Give it a good push again. Make sure that's down where I want it. Yep, just fine. Okay, now one other thing I always like to add, just a little bit more bling. These are our champagne rhinestone basic jewels. And I just want to add a few of these, just about 3 of them, just someplace just to add a little bit extra bling to my card. Get it here. Usually 3, maybe 4, 5. I like to use, of course, the odd numbers. And that looks good. And then what I sometimes do is I use my Wink of Stella, which of course I have no idea where I put at this point in time. But I take my Wink of Stella and I usually just give a little bit more to the pine cones there. And I don't think you can see it quite well on my camera or with the lighting where I put the Wink of Stella on my pine cones. But that's it there. And then one, of course, final thing, the inside of my card. I did stamp using this old set. I stamped this and the pine cones. I stamped this in, I believe I used Mossy Meadow, and then of course a brown, and I used soft suede for that. And then that's what I made my inside card with. Kind of stamped my pine boughs and then added the pine cone, and then with a stamped off image added the other pine cone there so you can see it. So that'll be the inside of my card. As I've told you before, I haven't decided what my sentiment will be for this year, and if I'm not stamping it, I'll be running it through my computer. But those are my Christmas cards, for at least part of my Christmas cards for this year. Let me show you a few others that I did a little bit differently with this same idea in mind. I use the Bedazzling, and I don't think you can see the shimmer so much on this card, the Bedazzling paper from the Sale-a-bration. And I wish I could have got you a better picture of that. I didn't care for this quite as much as I did the brown. I didn't think it looked as natural, but it's a different way to use the free Bedazzling paper from the Sale-a-bration catalog if you'd like to use it. So that's a different one there. And then also too for it, I use these metallic pearls as my little bit of bling on this card here. Great little things to have. The next one is some older designer series paper that I had, just kind of using it. Some more old paper. Let's get rid of it. I want to use it. There we go. This one was really cute too, with the little pine, or with the little trees in the background. And another brighter one then, using that. So these were my cards that I used using that same template. And I had fun using them, although it was a lot of things to run through my Big Shot, because this is a lot of cutting out. So I wouldn't suggest making as many as I did, because I spent a lot of time in front of my Big Shot, but my arm did get a nice workout, so I should be developing some muscles there. But I wanted to thank you very much for watching, and if you have any questions, you can always reach me at trenabrower@gmail.com. Keep stamping and scrapping. Thanks. Bye-bye.